This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing. This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time
Welcome to another episode of Tough Talk Tuesday. As always, I'm your host, Lucas Biggers. Alongside me will be Rob, James, and Javi, and Sakura. We got everybody on tonight. How's it going, guys?
Pretty good.
Hello, guys.
Nice to have the team, all back together again. All right. Before we get into Oscar Valdez, I think that's going to be a big talk. But before we get into that, let's touch a little bit on last week's fights. Rob, I know you don't even want to, but we got to. So let's not even talk about Jake Paul. No, Javi, you wanted to talk a little bit about the undercard, so let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, Tommy Fury, right? A lot of work to do in there. A lot of work to do. I'm actually curious to see him against Jake Paul, but a lot of work to do. Now, the main fight, the whole reason why this card actually made sense. Amanda Serrano, the real deal. We already know that, a lot of people, one thing that I noticed after Saturday is like a lot of people have started noticing her and realizing who Amanda Serrano is. But this is not something that started Saturday or the last fight. She's been building this type of career where she's breaking all type of records and she's not giving this the respect. And, I guess people noticing her, acknowledging her. But I think after Saturday, the word got put on notice. Now I see more people, the Young Bucks and everybody that was watching pretty much that card, realizing who she is. And this is wonderful, man, because I think she's a good ambassador for women's boxing. I believe personally, and I said it for some years, I think she is that face of women's boxing.
I mean, if not, she should be. I know she's definitely up there with Clarissa Shields. But right now, I think Serrano should be. I mean, the fact that she gets overlooked and the fact that she has to be on a Jake Paul card to get this kind of recognition is a little what makes me sick to my stomach.
She didn't get the knockout.
It's okay.
She's got skills.
She didn't get the knockout though.
Clarissa Shields haven't knocked out her opponents, and she's they call her pound for pound already.
Rob, where were you saying like you get the knockout though when Floyd was fighting? I ain't never hear that shit. I hear he won. He won. He won.
Different situation, man.
It ain't a different situation. It's the same thing.
You putting Floyd up there with Amanda Serrano. I mean, Amanda Serrano doesn't have that notoriety, doesn't have that type of clout. And let's face it,
that's
man.
That's what we're talking about, though. The problem is she's not getting that notoriety. That's part of the problem.
So get knockouts. Get knockouts. That's what they wanted to see on Saturday. They wanted to see a knockout.
Oh my goodness, guys. You know what? I was all excited about Amanda Serrano getting paid more than she's ever been paid before in the ring. And then I got a post today where someone showed me what she made without the pay-per-view buys, obviously. But it was literally $75,000. So she still did not break $100,000. Meanwhile, Dubois got paid $100,000. I mean, it's just like, oh my God. So I thought we were making strides, and then I actually saw the figures. And to know if we're correct, she's saying that's her biggest payday?
That is sad.
Oh.
That's just downright sad.
Yeah, extremely sad.
Another black eye for boxing.
So let's go ahead and get into this then. If we gonna get into this situation then, man. Once again, they don't garner that type of money. They're not the biggest draw in this fight. There was a lot of people talking about the whole undercard as a whole, not really that big, even with Amanda Serrano's fight. I didn't see any huge headlines other than the fact that she didn't get the knockout victory, other than the fact that she's trying to demand more money. And compared to the main event on this fight card, nobody really tuned in to see Serrano. They were all looking at the main event on the fight even more so than Amanda Serrano, which tells you a lot, especially considering you want to sit here and compare her to Floyd Mayweather because of what she does in women's boxing. She hasn't propelled it anywhere yet. She hasn't even propelled it anywhere. Clarissa is a bigger name than Serrano right now in this sport.
Would you guys agree to that? Would you guys agree that
I
Clarissa
agree with
Shields is
him.
a bigger name?
I agree with him, except for the part that nobody compare Serrano to Mayweather except for him. So that's the only part.
Lucas did. Lucas did.
I was comparing. You're saying going for the knockout, and I'm just telling you that you're not holding that same standard to Floyd, though.
Well,
I partly agree with what Rob is saying on the first part of his answer, which is that, of course, the audience was not there to see Amanda Serrano because they're not damn boxing fans.
Yeah, exactly. The whole. That's
Well,
exactly
there's
what
that.
it is. And my whole comment was
Is that?
I know she wasn't the main attraction. She wasn't. I just realized, and I think that after Saturday, more people noticed her, not just the kids, the bunch of YouTube kids that were watching that event. Even some hardcore boxing fans that know their boxing, they didn't realize who she was until then. And yeah, she didn't get the knockout because there's a lot of it's kind of the same with Clarissa Shields. She haven't get a knockout and exciting something like something that will bring that type of audience. But then at the same time, it's like they're doing things that even the guys are not doing. Like fighting. Look, she fought at 140 something, dropped to 115. She's a champion in many divisions, and she's not fighting the number 15 or the number 59. The Jill Dreams, the Rotsalka. She's not fighting those type of fights. She's fighting like the top women around. Now we don't know because women boxing doesn't have we basically the same cloud like Rob said with the men, but they're fighting top opponents according to their division, and I can't knock that.
Yeah, it's an open discussion. I don't want to get too far into it without actually touching on our and Sakura's tweet of the week. Really, a post of the week, I should call it this week because it is not a tweet. But let's go to that, Sakura, because it is kind of relevant. And then we're going to touch more on another post that we were talking about off air as well.
Okay, let me grab it right quick. This is from Will Hunter. He's out of Biloxi, Mississippi. So he had written a post actually on Facebook, and it was for the Paul versus Willie fight. Let me see. Why come I can't get to it right now, Lucas? Hold on a second.
I can read it for you if you want.
Yeah, that would be great if you could just read it for us.
Hate the Paul brothers all you want, but the fact remains they bring value to anything they promote. They sell pay-per-view and put asses in the seats. You can be the greatest fighter in the world, but that doesn't mean you have created any value. Hell, they even drove up the value of Pokemon cards. If you hate them, then you hate boxing. Haters are needed too because nothing like free advertising.
Okay, so my question to you guys tonight is Will correct or is Real dead wrong? First point, of course, being, they're not doing they're doing numbers. And they're fighting people that would also someone of the same stature might be fighting. Like not the same stature, but that have the same record. They would be fighting somebody that would have a similar record. Is this correct? Is this BS? And Will Hunter is supposedly with us tonight. So I'm sure he's gonna be ready to comment based on what you say, Rob.
The headlines say it all. This is from ESPN. Real or not, Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley was a big win for boxing. The headlines say it all. I have people tuned in tonight that want to hear about Jake Paul and Tyrone Woodley. Going back to what we were just talking about, you had a non-knockout in the undercard with Amanda Serrano in a big fight, but that didn't get any clout, any headlines. There's LeBron James tweeting out about this decision victory for Jake Paul. There's every single celebrity you can name it came out the woodworks, tweeted about this decision victory for Jake Paul. And it wasn't hate. It was love. It was love coming from every angle, every perspective. And a little bit of disappointment because the MMA guys are salty that Tyrone Woodley lost. They felt ashamed that he lost because he, quote unquote, had more experience. But the love is there, and these brothers aren't going anywhere, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And when you get headlines like that from ESPN, you are doing something right.
That's right, because ESPN is the gold standard for Rob. You know what? I understand exactly what you're saying. Some of the points you're making is really well. Just to piggyback off that statement about Serrano not getting a knockout or not doing knockouts, her previous fight in Puerto Rico, she did have a knockout. So that falls under the category of you just are not going to knock out everybody. But
that doesn't, but the idea there is that she should have gotten a knockout there because Bermudez, her opponent, was just not very good and was absorbing a lot of punches. In women's boxing, you just don't see a lot of knockouts. Clarissa Shields got two.
Well, I have to break this to you guys.
We can talk about that later.
Example for you all. I have a perfect example for you guys.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Women's boxing just doesn't show a lot of knockouts.
No. We're gonna do the example right now, Lucas, if you don't mind.
Wait, are we talking about the?
No, we gotta finish this conversation.
But y'all cut me off when you didn't let me finish the Serrano knockout statement.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, like the whole thing is this weekend I was able to capture a great knockout by some females. And I had that video online as well as I had a video of just some guys at a face-off at a weigh-in. Okay, which do you guys think did the better numbers? The actual knockout with two, like a knockdown and a knockout from a female, or an actual weigh-in face-off in which some guys shoved each other once? Y'all tell me.
Probably the guys who shoved each other.
Yeah, I hate to answer that question.
It hurts my soul. But
in other words, it don't matter if a female gives you the knockout or not to these fans. It's still going to be less interesting to them right now because that's the way we're programmed to be more into the males as far as boxing is concerned. So I don't think that made a bigger difference. As far as Woodley versus Paul and what Rob just said, the people were there to watch The people were there to watch Paul, okay? But the thing of it is that once you're there, you may get a couple of crossover people that actually like boxing on a whole, but it's nowhere near close to the amount of people that just tune in just because they want to watch Paul. So to me, it's a wash when people say, "Oh, but it's benefiting the sport." Not really.
No, I disagree with Will. I don't think it's good for boxing. I think it's making a mockery of it, and I think it would be the same exact way if it was taken and let's say the Paul brothers went into MMA, right? But he's going against MMA in MMA in the octagon against boxers or against celebrities, not
same stuff, right?
Yeah, it's the same shit. They would be complaining too. The MMA guys would all be in all cahoots too. All it is a way for them to cash out on how many fans that they have. They're following, and they're using that following to get that amount. You take a look at Amanda Serrano's numbers on Twitter. She has about 23,000, 24,000. That's incredibly tiny to. I don't even know what Jake Paul has. I'm sure millions. Millions.
Wow, is that today, Lucas? Is that as of
That's
today?
That's as of today.
Serrano still didn't get any new followers based on being on that card.
No, and she's probably not going to because they're tuned in for her. She's just a byproduct, and unfortunately, Rob is kind of right. Like, she has to make a big statement to gain some of that following, to steal some of those numbers from Jake Paul and move them over into hers, and share that. You do have to make a big statement, and unfortunately, whatever she did not impress Jake Paul fans, or just something that they weren't even looking for, no matter what she did. So,
that's surprising that she didn't make any strides, because she was working out in the same gym with him, and doing a lot of the activities, pre-fight activities, and they were kind of sharing the spotlight a bit. So I would think that she would have picked up some. Maybe those numbers will refresh at some point. But I just wanted to.
28,200 right now. It's 28.2. So about 3,000 followers.
So it's a good number. But the idea is that it's going back to this one point, man. I've been watching women's fighting for a long, long time, and knockouts have never been a big part of that. They fight well for 2 minutes, and basically that's it. You see a lot of knockdowns. You just don't see the knockout. It's just not in their wheelhouse.
And I hate
it's not part of that game.
I hate to go here, but is it something in people's mindsets that it's like the WNBA? Is this something where you're almost seeing as not exciting product, or not as an athletic product?
I look at it differently. They're just not. They're not built that way. Their physical composition is different. They're not as muscular, so it's more like of an Olympic sport in a sense, where they're connecting and scoring, and that's just the way the fight is played out.
Men are just better designed at beating the shit out of each other. Sakura, you're on mute.
Women thump. They get it on.
I'm sorry. I was on mute. I have to agree and disagree with you. The women fighters we're seeing are not that muscular, because they continue to only choose women that look a certain way to push and market and also sign. But there are women out there. There are women out there that are muscular and that will knock a damn man slap out. I've seen them right here in this area. I don't know about your area, Lucas, but I think you got some too. Like
one of the most...
Mary McGee, I'm not messing with you. She not me.
Poor Virgil Hunter, though. Poor Virgil Hunter, because we are going in on this women's subject, and we're not going on his question.
Oh, okay. Well, Hunter, the question is, he's feeling like people should stop hating on these guys, and that it's beneficial to boxing. Yes, on the pause. And that it's beneficial to boxing, and that they are fighting people with similar records or fight experience as they have right now. That someone that has been in boxing that's only got 2 or 3 professional bouts would be fighting as well. So he got like 3 different points in there.
Right. So we all know how I feel. I shared the headline. I'm dying to hear what Hobby wants to say. Dying to hear.
I partially agree with him. In the part where they bring in new eyes, I guess, to boxing, which will be the new kids. Everybody, their fans, their fans are pretty big. Millions to millions. That's a lot of eyes, to the sport. And yeah, know how I feel about these YouTubers in boxing and everything. Even though with Jake Paul, and I have to give him some credit. He's been training, and somebody that lays up the gloves and getting there gotta get some respect. But I believe, like Lucas said, it's not really about the sport. It's more of the business part, the event, the money, the money that's there on the table for the grab. And DAZN saw it. Showtime now see it. The YouTubers are monetizing their fan base. So they're taking advantage of a market that's there for them. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's be honest. Most of these kids, they're not going to stick around. If Jake Paul tomorrow decides to be, I don't know, IG influencer, they're all going to go to IG and forget about what he did for the sport. I don't think they're doing much for the sport. You know what I'm saying? Other than the entertainment part. I understand that part, and them lacing up the gloves, I gotta give some respect. But let's be honest. I mean, he he haven't fought nobody that's pretty much that you can say, well, is he ready for that type of for a pro career or not?
No, not at all, because he's only got 3 fights. So how is that any different from any other, 3 or 4 or 5 fight athlete or boxer out there? Well, they all start at the bottom. They all work their way up.
That's true.
They all fight, 6, 7 fights in. You're still fighting guys who are making their debut.
That is true. But I see it here sometimes with the pros and the local shows, and when they match them, they're matching like within 3-0 with another guy that's like 3-4, 4-0, or 4-1. So these guys that probably seen each other in the amateurs. Now they're seeing each other in the pros. So they pretty much know each other, or they have that pedigree. I don't think the Paul brothers have that. And I'm not taking nothing away from them. I'm just saying is, as far as like saving the sport, I don't know about that. Are they bringing another eyes and milking the sport in another way? Yes, they are.
Yeah. I mean, I see it as an insult to the sport. It's more of a cash in. And then they sit here and they talk like, oh man, he's been boxing for like 20 years. I just whipped it. No, he hasn't. He's been doing MMA. He is not a boxer. This is completely different.
What is one thing about this whole thing is like, if anything, that I wouldn't say they're hurting the sport. They're pretty much just taking advantage, just like anybody else will. But they are kind of hurting these MMA guys because they keep. I mean, for people always have that question, like, which one is better, MMA or boxing? Like, who's the best fighter? Who's more complete? And these YouTubers are showing both fan base on the boxing side and the MMA side that maybe boxing is better, because if you can strike, you pretty much can do more than like the other thing. I don't know. All I'm saying is, well, we talk about guys, I work in the gym. I'm there every day, and most guys talk about it. It's like that YouTube kid is making the MMA dudes look bad. That's what everybody's saying. Pros, coaches, amateurs, anybody that goes to the gym that knows some boxing.
Yeah, Will Hunter actually just chimed in. Let's see. He says, name an Olympian that has fought 8 rounds in 4 fights versus a former MMA world champion. Name one other than Loma.
An Olympian that
But you said MMA champion. That's the problem. I mean, that's a whole different sport. He didn't come in and face an actual boxing champion, or I think we'd be giving him some kudos, guys. I think we would all be like, hey, he did his thing. We can't even knock it. But at this point, not only did he come in and do what he has done, he's knocked out celebrities, and then he came in against Woodley. A lot of people think Woodley won anyway. That all depends who you ask.
Oh, you just opened up a can of worms for Hunter, because Hunter is like, he watched it and he still feels that.
I believe Shields actually said that Woodley won.
Clarissa Shields did.
She did.
Yes. So, I mean, to each his own, but at the same time, again, it's somebody who has not fought in boxing. Okay, he know some boxing, maybe.
Lucas, I'll go
boxing, but
Lucas, I'll go out on a limb here and tell you, I watched this. I didn't watch it live or anything like that. I watched highlights and stuff. I didn't watch the full fight. I certainly did not watch the full fight. But what I did watch was a Woodley who, in my opinion, is holding back. He's holding his punches. He's not like Tough Talk. We don't pull punches. I think he was a little bit.
And when he got rocked, right? And his ass, let's not get it twisted either. Paul's ass hit that rope, okay? Could have been ruled a knockdown.
There you go.
Could have been ruled a knockdown. But it wasn't. Let's face it. Paul was set up to win. He's set up to win. I mean, it's not different than any other sport. He's clearly the favorite. They clearly want him to move on because he's a moneymaker. He generates revenue, and he's going to continue to generate the revenue. It did not matter what he did. If he did celebrity basketball, he's going to be set up to win. This is how this works.
It might be beside the point, but I think if Woodley wanted to, he would have whooped his ass.
He did not charge. He did not get on him after that. He knew he was hurt. He knew he had Paul rocked.
That was, when
he
you
didn't follow up.
Your opponent in trouble, you press. And his press was half-ass.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Not in a
because
half-ass
rematch. Maybe he's like, I can get even
making me
more
wanna
money out of
watch
this
the
if we have a rematch.
Just look at it. And you decide. You decide. That was my feeling.
This seems set up to me. He continued, none of these fighters sell. Name one boxer doing their numbers. If 1 out of 10 stay tuned, and then they're bringing fans. Even crossover MMA fans watching boxing. All of these cats aren't getting paid. What about Clay Collard, MMA fighter, stopping prospects? Look, I don't care. If you put Elon Musk, okay, he has a huge following, put him in some gloves and get him out in the ring, he's going to sell. That doesn't mean he's a good fighter. That doesn't mean anything to me.
That's exactly my point. YouTubers are not boxers. Boxers are not YouTubers. There's very few boxers, because of the way they market themselves or don't market themselves, that don't develop that kind of fan base. Floyd Mayweather is the man. Always kept his name up front. Always kept his name in the news. Always fought for his spotlight. Very few boxers know how to do that. Canelo, he seems like he's working it. Zurdo Ramirez seems like he's kind of working it. It's about it. It's about it. They just don't do it.
He continued here. See,
boxing just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. How many fights did it take Mayweather Wilder to make a mill? I know 38 fights. Serrano and everyone on that card made more money in one night than all these kids made their whole career. Logan isn't a fighter. Ask a boxer if they like Jake Paul and if they think he can fight. Now there's no doubt that Jake Paul at least has some ability there. I think he's definitely better version of the Pauls. But if we're comparing him to like any named fighters, no. I mean, if we're talking about somebody who's just 4-0, I'd say he has actually some ground to build on. I agree with you there. But at the same point, if he's going up against another boxer in his own class, I'm not sure if he can hang. I want to see it. I want to see him against a real fighter, against a real boxer, against someone who knows their craft. But
provided they're equally matched, though.
I don't think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Listen, y'all are getting caught up too much on this skill level aspect of this argument. You're getting caught up on the skill level aspect to where is he a real boxer, a real fighter, this and that. Who gives a shit? The man is making millions of dollars before Floyd did in his career, before Wilder, before they all did. He's making more money.
Right.
More money than any of them did ever at this point in their career. You have to salute him for that.
I don't know about that. Oh man, Hunter just.
I guess he's pound for pound less now.
Hunter just said Woodley beats half of the current cruiserweight division. No.
Wouldn't beat anyone in the top 10. Wouldn't beat anyone in the top 15.
Not even close. Look,
you know what?
MMA gets trained in boxing, but it's a little bit out of a little bit. See, you got to worry about all this other stuff. You don't master boxing and then continue to do other stuff. You're doing other stuff completely. I disagree completely.
I mean, here's the thing for me. We're getting... It's just like those people that want to add how much money a boxer is able to make to the pound-for-pound skills that a boxer has to have. They'll be like, no, Gervonta Tank Davis should be number one because he's a pay-per-view star. So, plus, he has knockout power. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's people that add that to, the skills that they believe makes a good boxer. And I'm like, well, should money be included from now on? Is that a legitimate way to value rank a boxer's abilities in the ring? So that's my question, is like, should it be separate, or should it really be considered as another attribute?
Of course it should be separate. Listen.
Why?
Perfect example, Mike Tyson, okay? Of course everyone's going to tune in. It's Mike fucking Tyson. The problem is Everybody thought that this man could still come back and win and be like a heavyweight champ. He is not going anywhere. He is a sideshow now. This is a circus, and this is the same thing that Jake Paul is. No offense to Mike Tyson. I love you. You're an all-time great. You're a GOAT. But at the same time, if you're fighting now, it's simply an exhibition. And this is simply what the Paul brothers is doing, is exhibitions. They're making money off the sport. And again, it could be done in MMA. It could be done anywhere else. They're being set up and getting gifted these opponents in order to just make some money. And that's what this is. And my problem with it is people are seeing it as good for boxing, but it's not. Nobody is taken away. As we just talked about, Serrano didn't gain any damn following out of it. Yes, she may have gained some extra money, but that's only because more fans in the seats due to the Paul brothers. Without that, we go right back into the same problem. If you take Paul out, right, is that card going to be worth any more? Did he have any effect? No. All he did was make his own money. He is not helping boxing in any way, shape, or form, other than making a mockery of it.
Lucas.
What?
If any fighter on that boxing card or boxing period, and I know all of you can answer this because I know the answer. Any boxer in the world gonna fight without money, for no money? Hell no. This is a prize sport.
Right.
Prize sport. They are doing this for the money. Therefore, if he can put on a card and get this much attention to be able to get these types of prize fighters on the undercard to put up a showing, he's helping the damn sport.
Again, how is that helping the sport, though?
Because they're not showing up for no money. If the sport isn't making any money, there's no sport. That's number one.
Well, here's the problem.
Number two, hold on, let me
You
finish.
got so many fighters that's not making. You said they don't fight for money, but that's exactly what happens for the majority of their career. They're really fighting for crumbs and hoping to plateau to the level that they can make way more money.
That's why this helps.
Only 10% of them do.
That's why this helps. Okay, that's exactly why this helps the sport. Number two, and this came from your boy, I heard in an interview today. He's missing in action, unfortunately, but this came from your boy, Peter Quinlan. Okay? And Peter said, what is boxing really when you look at it? It's entertainment. What happens, why do people, and do you know why people turn into entertainment? Because when nothing else is going good in your life, nothing else makes you happy, you can always turn to entertainment. That aspect will always be there. If they keep winning and drawing these numbers out, it has to be good for this sport.
Okay, so a boxer that's on one of these undercards with the YouTube stars, will they be able to generate and to sustain that same money that they received during that one fight? The answer is no. As soon as they come off those type of cards and they go back to fighting on the regular cards, they're not going to make that type of money. So long term, it isn't as beneficial as it seems. Short term, yes, they benefited from being on that show, but it's not transferring to other shows is what we're learning.
Exactly. And not only that, but I tell you what, right? For the people that say that because they're bringing that type of money, it's good for the sport. Guess what is, if it's good for the sport, guess for who it's better for? For who? For the promoters, the network. They're the one benefiting, not boxing, not the fighter.
I mean, who runs the sport though? When you look at it, who really runs the sport?
Here's a perfect example. Here's a perfect example of why this is bad for boxing. Are you ready? Simple and to the point, okay? If fights like this are making money, this is the shit we're going to keep getting.
Oh, yeah.
This is what they're going to keep feeding us. We're talking about we want to see the best. We're going to get Jake Paul versus, Sideshow Bob over here. Or, Mike Tyson next. Something that doesn't make sense. Is just a circus freak show. This is not boxing anymore. You're right. It's entertainment. That's all this is. This is not boxing anymore. And that's the problem, is that it's hurting the sport in the long run. And this is exactly the Mayweather effect had. Okay, you got to keep your O or you ain't worth shit. Okay, that affected the boxing culture. And if Jake Paul turns around and affects the boxing culture in the same way, this is not good for the sport. The sport is being made out to be a mockery, and MMA is considered fighting now, and boxing's for celebrities. Is that what we want?
Because I believe if let's say that Paul had decided to fight someone that was an actual boxer, then like you said, we'll be having a different conversation today. We'll all be like giving him kudos when he won, because he does have some skills. It's like, it just doesn't make sense that you're already the A side. You're bringing in all your fans. You didn't need a Woodley per se. You could have really fought somebody else that's a real boxer. You would have still grabbed in all of your fans, like, you know, and you just make a good dramatic, you know, side entertainment type situation out of it, as you normally would. You would have still brought in them same dollars. Like, fight some damn body is all I'm saying. Fight a real boxer. Let's see where your skill level really is.
Eventually, he's going to have to. He's only 3-0 or 4-0 at this point.
Well,
like any other boxer who's 3-0 or 4-0 or 5-0, you don't expect to see them. I mean, there's only one guy who's done that, and that's Lomachenko. But he had, you know, this enormous amateur career, so he's a little different. He's a little different, but
and one thing
his trajectory is no different from any other fighter.
Let's see.
I don't think so. I think he's fighting his custom-made opposition. One thing about that, I give this.
It's handpicked. It's handpicked. We all know that.
Exactly. And one thing about him is I gotta give it to him. Oh, his team, whoever's matching him against these people that he's being matched against, they're doing a great marketing and matching him, because obviously we already know he's gonna win for the most part, you know.
Well, I don't think they did a good job matching him, because a lot of people are saying Woodley actually beat him. So maybe that wasn't as good of a matchup as you think. But it's good as far as marketing is concerned, because Woodley people know his name, but it wasn't maybe that good that he wasn't able to like really decisively put a W on his name without getting some help, apparently. So I mean, I guess you can read that two ways. I see we got Sherman Henson chiming in.
Yeah, we got a lot of comments. Let's see, when's the last time anyone has actually fought? I fought baby Mike Tyson 2 weeks ago, 30 MMA fights, 10 pro boxing, and 2 bare knuckle. I'm a boxer and got my ass fired up. Champions are champions. There are 175 cruiserweights in the USA, and he beats half of them. I manage, promote, judge, and have a gym, fight, etc. Paul is doing the same thing he did in Pokemon, bringing value and fans. He's bringing fans, but I don't really think they're staying in boxing. I don't think they have a general interest in the sport. It's just in him. Let's see. Sherman Henson says Jake Paul is a sideshow. Every fighter of today is a prize fighter. None of them are fighting because they love the sport anymore. Let's see. Will Hunter continued. An average fighter with money has a better chance than a legit broke-ass fighter. I bet anyone Jake will get a legit NABO, NABA, or minor WBC belt by 10 fights. And that is a legit problem with the sport, too. You're getting these fights just because you have that money and that entertainment value that you're bringing. Somebody who's 10-0 and actually has worked their way up, learned the ins and outs of their sport, they're not going to get that shot. They're not going to get what they deserve. But Jake Paul automatically is ahead because he's worth more money.
Well, doesn't he have a WBC belt already, by the way? I think his first fight.
Probably.
I saw his first fight when he was walking around with some WBC belt.
I wouldn't.
That's when I lost my.
I mean, we already know the WBC just makes belts for fights, so who knows?
They're starting to come around.
That was the WBA that's coming around. Henson says it's not even entertainment; it's garbage. I'm 64 and I'd like to book Jake Paul's ass.
Book Jake Paul's ass.
And Hunter has a point here, okay? He says you're blaming the wrong people. Blame Bob, PBC, Hearn. Keep your 38-0 and stay broke. That's why Bud is a dud. can't pay the cost, take the boss. He can't cover his fight. Spence can. If you're legit, take 20% and dictate the rematch.
Now, Lucas, I think.
Go ahead.
I think that's the answer, and that's the answer in why we're having this problem, because we're not getting Crawford versus Spence. We're not getting those high-level fights, those pay-per-view caliber fights. Canelo's been fighting duds. We haven't gotten the huge fight anymore.
They're not fighting each other, basically.
It's these guys
out. That is right.
I mean, everybody involved is to blame.
It's even an opening for this type of entertainment.
Showtime, Steven Espinosa, he's to blame. Who would sign Jake Paul for at least a 3-fight deal? You got to put him to blame too. I mean, and anybody he goes up against. Let's see, C.J. Hooker, Rob, your buddy there. Paul said he wants Canelo next. I heard hilarious. Hinson says that is whoop. Hunter, Paul is ranked 110 out of 175 in USA. My cruiser was number 14 in USA at 1-0 weak division. I mean, I would rather see your cruiser take on Paul than a Woodley.
Well, cruiser's never been that division.
It's never been packed. Division. No, it's never been packed.
It's never been exciting. There's never been anyone to really talk about in cruisers. I think Usyk is the last one.
And that's going to be the new Bridgerweight. I mean,
it's really, yeah.
It's going to be the new Bridgerweight. It's going to be two divisions now that are lackluster, but I guess we're still, beating around the bush. I mean, yes, it is to blame, but at the same time, is it really good for boxing in the long run? I got to say no.
Well, if the networks can't stay afloat because when they try to do legitimate bona fide boxing, then we do have a larger situation where, I can't blame Showtime for picking up Paul because it's paying, the dollars, and they can profit to keep running a next generation or a world boxing champion, night. I just feel that if they're going to have that, if they're going to have a YouTuber in the Pauls, then at least have them fighting legitimate boxers. I mean, it's not fair for someone to work their entire life. I'm talking about from the age of 4 and 5 years old in some cases, and then watch their chances dwindle and be minimized even more because a YouTuber has a bigger name and a bigger platform than they do.
That's what I mean.
That's my main issue with it.
And it stops being a sport, like you said. I mean, it stops anything. What point is there to a ranking system because you're just going to put him number one? And that's what happens anyway. Anytime that Floyd would get a fight against somebody, his opponent would automatically be ranked all of a sudden, like top 5. And you're like, wait a minute, he was way down there. Same with Pacquiao. Every time he got into a fight, they ranked Margarito high. And you're like, what? All this stuff was already bad. But when you're adding Paul into it now, it makes it that much worse.
Well, in short, he's winning the popularity contest. That's all fine. He's making the bucks. Good for you. But at some point, he's, the rubber meets the road, and he's got to fight a real fighter. Guy with the, 10-0 killer. Well, I tell you what, why don't we just stop the conversation and say Berlanga versus Paul?
I love that. I love that.
What could possibly happen there?
Let's be honest. Paul doesn't make it out of the first few rounds, right? He'd be lucky to make it out of 1. He'd be lucky to make it out of 1.
8.
Oh
7.
my goodness, that's really funny.
But that's the point, is he can only also keep up this slideshow for so long, because who's he going to get that people are going to say, I care to see this again?
But he's making
nobody wants to watch
now.
Woodley
Will
again.
he really care? I don't think he really cares long term because he's making so much money now.
Now, he retired though.
Tomorrow
he retired,
so much money.
It might not matter because he retired.
Yeah, exactly.
and then deleted that post. I don't know.
I'm sure he'll be
about.
back. Just.
Well, yeah, but he could do whatever.
Plus, he's already got a deal with HBO or Showtime. For 2 more fights. So.
Yeah, I believe he saw himself hurt and didn't like the way that looked, and remembered like, damn, he really almost laid me out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for people that have a big ego and they've been fed certain opponents, for someone that wasn't supposed to be that much competition for you, and you know, Woodley, for him to like have you like really like up on the ropes, you know, that's not an ego booster. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I still think he was let off the hook.
Oh yeah, I think Woodley let him go. I think so for sure. And Hunter continues to say that's the fighter's fault, the manager's fault, and the promoter's fault, not the Paul brothers. That's not hating on someone with a big cock. If yours is small, you will be mad.
God, Will. Really, Hunter? Really?
Oscar is about to lose to an MMA fighter. That's a sideshow he got stopped in for. You know, maybe, but this is the problem. I think it's spiraling, and it's going to keep going like this. This is the problem, Hunter, is when you get a Paul versus this, then we're going to get Oscar versus that, you know, and we're going to keep getting these odd, you know, fights that nobody really cares about. That's why I mean it's bad for boxing. It's not good for boxing. Not good in any way, shape, or form. I've already talked about Paul more than I ever wanted to in my life, so let's please get off this subject here. And talk about Oscar Valdez popping positive.
Uh-oh.
Somebody explain this to me in details. What kind of popping are we talking about here? We talking
listen,
drugs,
he got
enhancements. What are we talking?
No, his VADA testing showed that he was using a diuretic. And that kind of worries me a little bit because he's a dedicated fighter who's always in great shape. And if he's using that with his fight coming up against Robson Conceição, it's of concern.
So he's been basically using this. I mean, you got to break it down for me, James. So you're saying that he's been using a diuretic basically to make weight. Is that what we're saying, to cut weight?
It's used to cut weight, yes.
Why else would he have that?
Yeah.
There's only one reason for it.
He has something in his system and he wants to, you know, poop it out.
To purge it?
Well, the thing about it is like the thing about that thing that was found on him, that substance, it's a diuretic that helps you get lose water weight and all of that. But it also is used when they're flushing out, when they're masking something worse. You know what I'm saying?
What's the name of this diuretic? Because I'm all for losing the water weight.
Phentermine. But let's say something that nobody else wants to say.
Okay.
Because we don't pull any punches, right? I mean, that's the name of the show. Eddie Reynoso. 2 fighters.
I knew that was going to come out.
2 fighters.
I knew that was going to come out.
It's more than 2 fighters.
2 fighters at the minimum.
It's more than 2.
Right. Thinking about that at all.
This is a problem.
I knew he was coming with that.
It is going to come to him. I mean, it's not going to. We're not going to blame Reynoso, but
you can't fully
from the same camp, by the same trainer, around the same team, around the same people. So
right.
Flags are going to be raised.
At some point, you know, dots are going to connect, though. You can only have so many test positive before the coach has to get in trouble too.
Well,
yeah, but
forget
about
the condition coach, this or that type additional, you know, trainers that they bring in for stamina or for weight loss. Like they have a whole team of, you know, trainers and experts in there.
They do, but you got to strike that first one because I know you guys are referring to Canelo and clenbuterol. That is so counterproductive, and no one in the right mind would use that to try to gain advantage. Makes you heavy and it makes you slow. Francisco Vargas was popped for the same thing. That guy does not need to put on weight. It's just not.
Some people would disagree with you, James. It doesn't.
It's just you're not gaining any musculature.
If you want to build more muscle.
If you want to take an unfair advantage, there's a lot of other things you're going to take before you take clenbuterol. It's just in the meat.
One that can sneak between the system,
I would strike that from the record and say, you know, the conversation was about
James,
Valdez.
It's not just one test either that Canelo got popped.
I agree with you, James. I think they're witch hunting, but go ahead.
No
Go
way. I mean, it's easier to use. Why would I use something that I know they're going to detect as being something I shouldn't be using when I can use something that I
Because he
can
didn't.
clearly say, let me finish. Let me finish that I can clearly say is just in the meat at my home in Mexico.
Because it was not intentional.
How do you know?
That's
I don't know for
that's
sure,
the
but
cover
it's
story anyway.
If I want to build
logical.
muscle and I want to build muscle and I want to be bigger, then so I can get my nemesis Triple G at that time. Why the heaviest hitting man in the world apparently.
Clenbuterol is not the way to go. Clenbuterol is not the way to go. You may as well be drinking beer. It's not the way to go.
Okay,
Kyrian disagrees with you.
So long.
Kyrian disagrees with you, James. He's written a whole big article about it. Just go to heavybadboxing.com. The Gad just asked for a link. Heavybadboxing.com. Search for the clenbuterol in our search thing. It should pop right up. But
it's a great research article from someone that is in the gym and nutritionalist.
He is a nutritionalist and he deals specifically with drugs. And yes, he went into great lengths on how this could help and hurt Canelo in both ways. But regardless, I mean, if you're a trainer, and let's just say 4 out of your 5 are testing positive. Am I supposed to not believe that you should know about this?
Well, the thing, getting back to Valdez specifically, is that he is a person who's always in the gym and he's always in great shape. And if he has a diuretic in the system, then there's questions there that come up. Why would there be if he is never had any trouble making, whether it's 26 or 30 or wherever he's at? He's always on point, and he does have a fight coming up, so this doesn't look good.
No, and that's the problem too. Is it probably his first time using? That's always gonna be somebody else's question, because you look at anybody who cheats and they're automatically gonna go back and say, you know what, I really didn't lose that fight. That dude was juicing or wrapping his hands wrong. Look at Cotto Margarito, that first fight. They're gonna forever be in doubt that Margarito actually beat him that first one, because he's going to say he had his hands, wrapped. You can't prove it, but you can't prove against it either. So
all
you
it's
know
just
is
an allegation.
He got caught.
It's an allegation that is compounded by, basically a lot of circumstantial evidence.
Exactly.
So when it looks like a duck, it cracks like a duck.
Right.
Cotto has never been hurt like that in his life since or before that fight. People can deduce from that he more than likely was using this plaster in that fight. Yeah. Which is it's horrible. He could have died in that fight.
And I think that's about it, about this sport, because it's like in other sports when you cheat it's already bad, but you're trying to get out, you're trying to gain an edge on your throwing, your maybe more stamina to keep biking, to keep bicycling, stuff like that. But when you're talking about going blow for blow, and then you have something in your body that's gonna make you, be better or faster or stronger or be able to take more punches, you literally, it's like kind of like what Margarito did, kind of like that documentary with the dude with the Crespo with the loaded gloves as well. You literally are assaulting somebody into that's why they get murder charges, because you're literally putting somebody at risk, knowing that you already have something that could put them, either hurt them permanently or just put them for good out. Now, one thing about Lucas, right, is what you were saying before. When this thing happens, and I mean, Valdez looks like a stand-up guy. You know what I'm saying? He carries himself good. We never seen some type of fuckery from him. But now this type of thing that will make a fan like us kind of think that, and then throughout their career, that's always gonna be in back of somebody's mind, like, oh, but what about that time when you pop, like Canelo, right? A lot of Canelo fans, they love him, and the guy has been improving crazy in the amounts that he's been doing it, but that always is in the back of their mind. Oh, everybody We're gonna talk about that Mexican meat and this and that. Now,
I mean, it
how
puts
do
an
we know?
asterisk. You look at Shane Mosley; it did that for me too. I can't hold Shane Mosley up that high like I used to. I automatically bring him down because we all know that he was testing positive.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. Then that changed your career pretty much. And then not only that, but it's like there's no way for us to know if it's the first time that you accidentally got caught with it, or actually you got caught because you've been doing it and you got sloppy and you got caught at the end of it trying to flush out some other worse shit. Kind of like what happened with Pascal. Pascal got caught for like 3 or 4 steroids, like
Yeah,
just straight up steroids.
one of
It
them,
was
Yeah.
like very
one of them,
abusive.
one of them
Right.
would have had to be injected.
Right now, if that same test that caught that, it would have been a week or 2 weeks after. They wouldn't call the whole 3 substances. They would have called something like that, like a substance that just to clean out your urine. But that's just cleaning out. You at the end of the cycle. You know what I'm saying?
See, and this is where again it's bad for boxing. Okay, Margarito got caught red-handed, and I mean red-handed, right? And that should be assault right there. That should be a sport ban. He was allowed to come back a year later and fight
Yes,
Pacquiao.
that was good. That was
It's
what was
an
crazy
insult
to me.
to everybody.
Yep. But you know what? I gotta take the boxers' side for a minute, guys. On the pills. When they hand you a pill, you got your endurance coach, your strength coach. I've seen this in the boxing gyms where that they just wrapped up a really long sparring session, and then they hop out, and then their coach or their trainer is shaking up the milkshake or the shake, and then they're like, here, take this and drink that. And in the fighter, the boxer, he's not even really paying attention. He's just like, okay, yeah, I'm trusting this person, and they're just like consuming it and drinking it because they're already depleted when they get out of the ring in the first place. And that happens a lot where they're not even really paying attention to what their ingestion should they be. Yes,
I hear what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I'm going to counter with this. Have we ever heard of a fighter say, my nutritionist must have did this to me? No. They have never said that. I have never heard one nutritionist get in trouble for that. Now, should they? Yes, but nobody has ever been accused that I'm aware of. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have never heard a nutritionist say, no, they must have put that in my drink. I would never do that knowingly. I've never heard anybody accuse one of their nutritionists. In fact, the closest thing I've heard is Wilder saying that he got drugged by his trainer. But let's put it this way.
Yeah.
For me to correct this issue, okay, and I think this is the only way. When you test positive for any banned substance, you lose your license. The only way to keep your license valid, anybody who's been pulled over, okay, without car insurance, I don't know about the rest of the world, but here in the state of Illinois, you got to have something called SR22, which basically notifies the state that you have insurance because you done probably hit somebody with no insurance. So what I'm saying is now you have to be 24/7 drug testing set up through VADA, or you cannot fight at all. You lose your license. That is, I think, the only way to keep the sport clean.
Okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, if you pop on something and you want to still fight, then yeah, why aren't you agreeing to allow us to test you by the testing? Whenever we show up at your door, you better be ready. I mean, that seems like only fair. That if you pop on something and you still want to fight afterwards, we shouldn't just trust that you're not going to do that again. We need to see it. There needs to be validation that you are adhering to fairness in your fights.
And that's got to come out of your own pocket. That's got to come out of your own purse.
But
that's your own issue.
That's what's not gonna happen. They're not gonna really, come out of pocket for that. But Lucas, to your question you were saying before, I see it here, man. I'm not gonna say the trainer is fully responsible when these guys pop, but the trainers, the coaches, the assistants, everybody that's involved with the fighters, prior to the fight, they pretty much know exactly what they're taking, what they're giving him, what how they're cutting the weight, what measurements they're taking for this and for that. So again, I'm not gonna hold the coach responsible fully for what happens with the fighter, but do they have an idea? Do they know? Yes. Do they want to turn the blind eye? I'm not sure, but they do fucking know. And sometimes I see it here. The coach, he's the one that tells the fighter, "Don't take this, don't do this, eat your protein at this time. Don't eat, don't do this. Drink your water. Your BCAA stuff like that." Because he's been working with so many fighters that he pretty much know the games, and he pretty much knows everything. So he does it in a way to help the fighters, and also in a way to protect himself so that his fighters don't come out looking bad or tainted, because that also reflects on the coach. The coach, they know it. They know it. That's why they are pretty, I would say, they're pretty strict when it comes to a few things, especially when, let's say in the case of Pitufo, when he was fighting for the title, like they know it's an important fight, so they had everything checked. You know what I'm saying? Now, for the other fighters with the local shows here, I'm not saying that the coach doesn't really take care of them. What I'm saying is, he is not as strict, because I guess there's not that type of testing out there. Not saying they're taking anything. All I'm saying is the coaches know. The coaches cannot say, "Oh, I didn't know that he was taking that," or "What was happening." They know. Well,
Javi, please state how you stay in the gym and you stay busy, ready, so you know the gym life.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
But I do think there's some trainers that are like, I don't even want to know.
Yeah, I mean, that happens.
Don't tell me, because I don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah, or there's times where the fighter doesn't live here, right? They come from New York, from Texas, so they only come here for the training camp. Now, prior to them coming here for training camp, the trainer have no idea what they've been doing, what they own. You know what I'm saying? But once they get here, for the most part, I know my trainer here, he be on the ass about everything. What time did they drink the water? What time they're working out? What time they're eating? What amount they're eating? How much they're supposed to weigh at a certain weeks before the fight? All of that, they have that packed down by the number.
And I mean, the whole thing with drugs and boxing is so hit and miss, and so like, this is okay, this is not. When we're talking about the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, they denied Pacquiao a cortisone shot, yet Mayweather was allowed to get the IV, and that should be illegal too. You're basically able to get rid of whatever substances you would have had inside your body anyway. And he talking about he dehydrated. When has Mayweather ever had a problem making 147? I don't think he had to be drained at any point in his life to be saying he's dehydrated and having to fight at 147. That's a joke. Now, if you had to go down and fight at 135, I'd be like, you probably give that man his IV. He needs that. But in no way, shape, or form did Mayweather need that. However, as we were talking about earlier, numbers all matters, so, nobody's going to question that.
I mean,
because
I don't know about that one, Lucas, because, Mayweather really had a problem with overtraining sometimes for his fights. He would be like, people that are in his camp, they have these stories about
it's still illegal. It doesn't matter.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's no way he was dehydrated. I'm saying that these people in his camp, they say he would call at like 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like, oh, I got to get my run in. I got to get this run done. I got to do this. I got to do that. I need to go to the gym. Like, it's like 24/7. Like, I'm not going to completely say he wasn't dehydrated. But all I'm going to say is, yes, it's an unfair advantage when you're getting hydrated and the other person isn't.
You're getting hydrated.
You're getting told information in your corner, but your opponent isn't. Because I talked to somebody this weekend that's with the commission here about that fight, Lucas, in Atlanta, and how you were trying to get information on whether or not someone could be outside the ring in their corner.
And
managers, promoters, that type of thing.
You're talking about the Gervonta Davis fight?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And they basically was like, anything that gives that opponent an advantage over their opponent, basically in the commission's rules, it would be where no, it's not allowed. Mm-hmm. So, and definitely not managers, because not managers and not promoters. Like, they can say, oh, I'm his manager and I'm this. And then this particular person I was talking to with the commission said they are not allowed on those corners anyway. No. Unless they're in the corner to actually physically do, the cut man responsibilities or the training responsibilities. And they really are not supposed to be in them corners.
And that's my problem, is that nobody's treated equally in boxing. Right. It's not upheld at all.
Yeah, I'm like a stickler for that too, with the weight situations as well. Like when these guys rehydrate, and one rehydrates to like 25 pounds over what the weight was, like that's an unfair advantage. I feel like anything that gives that particular opponent the edge that is not given to the other opponent is wrong. Yeah. And it should be illegal.
And this, unfortunately, is a way of getting around to helping other people win. And I'm not talking about just Floyd Mayweather, but he is a good example with the IV, not to mention the lidocaine on the hands, why he didn't leave Vegas, why he has not fought really outside Nevada. Because, I mean, let's face it, why would you do that? You can probably, you're Floyd Mayweather, you can go sell out the Cowboy Dallas Stadium, You can sell out anywhere. You can go to the new U.S. Bank Stadium, sell that out. You're Floyd. You can do that. But he wants to stay in Nevada for reasons that allow him to stay where he is and do what he wants to do and take what he wants to take. There's a problem with the sport, and somebody needs to step in, but we keep saying the same thing every week, and I don't think it's going to change, unfortunately.
Well, in his defense, I would ask you, you're talking about the Gervonta Davis fight, and my question to you is I didn't see this, but did he walk out with Gervonta Davis?
I don't believe so. Crew? No. He was not signed up for the cornerman, though. I mean, he was not a cornerman. I'm
thinking if he was, then that changes everything, and that's why he's there.
Yeah.
So from an optic standpoint, it doesn't look well. It doesn't look right.
No.
But if he is a cornerman or a second, and he's registered as one, then he could be there and should be there. And if he touches his gloves, there's really
you
can do or say.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The touching the glove wasn't the unfair advantage. The unfair advantage,
but it could have been
telling someone,
okay,
"Hey, you're behind. Hey, the judges got it closed. Hey,
well, to me,
that was the part that seemed like it's more unfair than him just touching, Gervonta's glove."
But to me, just the fact that he's a promoter, but he's also in the corner of a particular fighter, just doesn't look right. But there's nothing illegal there.
Well, I mean, the A side's already set up so much to win, but when you have stuff like that too, that even stacks a little bit further. And in no way am I saying Floyd Mayweather was cheated in that fight. I don't think anything actually happened. I'm just saying it should not have been allowed. However, if he had a little pepper or mace-like substance and just grabbed the glove real quick, that could cause some problems. I mean, that's something that could happen. I'm not saying it happened. I'm just saying that allows and opens the door for other cheating to happen. Nobody should be touching the gloves. Especially not somebody who's not in the corner.
But you guys are still not listening to what I'm saying. That the person I spoke to is saying is anything
I heard you.
That gives that opponent an edge or an unfair advantage over the other opponent. So in order for that to be equal, then that meant that Barrios would have had to have someone in his corner also giving him information on the sideline, and it'd be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, they're saying that anytime that it's a unequal situation, it's really not supposed to happen.
Which happens in every boxing fight. It's an A side, B side thing. I mean, come on. Nothing is equal going into any boxing event. Let's see here. Sherman Henson, there should be a rehydration requirement. I agree. I think the IBF gets it right. I don't think anything over 10 pounds. I agree completely, and I wish the rest of the alphabet, what do you call them, James? The alphabet mob?
The cartels.
I wish they would all pick that rule up from the IBF and use those 10 pounds. I think that's an amazing idea. I would even cut it down a little bit and say within 5 to 7. I don't think it should be 20 pounds, no Canelo doing shit like that. But all right, we've gone over a little bit, but I still do want to touch on some fights this weekend. We got Katie Taylor taking on Jennifer Hahn for the undisputed women's lightweight title. Sakura, I know you're happy about that one.
No, that's so funny because I was actually thinking, who cares?
The one person I thought was gonna be super excited about that, and she said, "Nope. Who gives a shit? You turned into Rob on me."
You know, I want to see Katie Taylor with Amanda Serrano. I want to see her, you know, move up and fight, you know, in the welterweight division. I'm kind of like I'm over her with these, you know, handpicked opponents. I mean, she's falling into that category of, you know, having the engine behind her. And, you know, she got the skills. She needs to start displaying them with, you know, top tier competition. If she wants to be undisputed, they've lined it up for her to be undisputed, and I hope that's the end of this so she can, you know, get to some real competition.
I mean, everybody. I mean, Katie Taylor seems to be a favorite. I thought you were going to be a little bit more excited, but James, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, you know, it's one of those things with the Benny Bridges fighting on this card, and so I'm only in it for the weigh-in. That's it.
You just want to see the sexuality, okay?
Yeah, that's the girl with the tatas who just can't stop showing it off. But I heard that when she wins her next fight, the WBC is going to make her a belt with the matching sports bra, so she can show those melons.
All right.
And it's going to be one of those mestizo themed kind of things. Who knows, man?
I thought she just lost the fight. Didn't she just lose a fight?
I think she won her last fight, but she lost against a lady named. I'll look it up right here. She's 6-1, so she does have a loss, but that was against Shannon Courtney.
Right.
That was a previous fight, and then now
that was a tough fight, though. That was a really tough fight. Like
she won by TKO in her last fight, and now she's against a young lady whose last name is Gangloff. She's 5-2, so pretty decent competition there. But yeah, no, she can thump, and she's beautiful, and she's got it all. She's got the toys, the tatas, the rack and pinion steering, whatever you want to call it, man.
I'm more excited for the fight.
Right, that's the undercard, though. That's not even the main.
I know, but hey. It's on there.
But hey, I'm not mad at her for having all her tools. She's using all her tools, including her boobs. That's fine. I get it. But for every time that they sign someone that looks like her, that's got skills, how about they have to sign somebody that don't look like her that still got skills? Like, let's make that even as well. That's what's just so annoying to me about, you know, females right now and who's getting signed and who's getting overlooked.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure it happened with MMA when Ronda Rousey came around. I mean, she's the one that kind of made UFC get off the map. But she did it by being somewhat dominant and still coming off very feminine, very pretty still, and was able to pull it off. And not to degrade or cut down any women boxing, I just don't think that we've had that standout person yet. We are still waiting for that, and you know, I think the sport could definitely take off from there. I think it really just has to open a lot of guys' eyes first before they'll even give women's boxing a chance. Let's face it, we are a little all chauvinistic at times, and you know, like what we like, so we got to be forced into it before we actually sit down and enjoy it.
I mean, like I said, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I'm entertained every time I sit down to watch boxing. I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, that's a really big core female that loves boxing.
And I'm sure you get some eye candy like we talked about. I mean, you had your own eye candy segment. I mean, you know, it's no different.
Yeah, you know? It's no different. I got my favorites based on, you know, how appealing they are. But with male boxing, they also have other men that still have skills that are not as attractive,
that are ugly as a dog.
And that's the problem with the females.
I'll agree to that. I'll concede. And then, of course, we got the main event with Josh Warrington, rematch against Mauricio Lara. Guys, I mean, it's going to be a good fight, but are we expecting Josh Warrington to come back and actually score one back? Are we expecting a repeat?
I'm expecting the repeat.
Me too.
Yeah.
He got
Me too.
beat sound.
And almost exactly the same way. I'm saying a late stoppage. You know.
Yeah, it was a 9th round TKO.
Yeah,
so.
I'm saying a late stoppage. I really don't see anything that would have tell me otherwise. Javi, you look like you got something you want to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Warrington. I believe he's gonna.
Really?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll be more interested in this fight now, Javi. I mean, isn't Conor Ben Jr. on this fight card too?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so I want to see him because remember that fight got canceled because he tested positive for COVID. Well, both of them tested positive for COVID.
So shout out to Adrian Granados, who is facing Conor Ben, and he's going to whoop him good. Go, Adrian.
I forgot. I forgot about that
Adrian.
fight getting rescheduled too. Yeah.
Yeah, Conor Ben had come down with COVID.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
They were gonna be on DAZ and fight night. Is the fight camp.
Yeah, fight camp.
But it's like during the day. And that's the only thing. It's like it kind of throws me off bad, guys.
It's overseas, yeah, but it's still gonna be a good one. All right. And Rob, you said no, nothing else for us tonight with the rapid fire. All right.
No, we exhausted everything.
Sherman Henson says, great show tonight, guys. So thank you, Sherman, and thank you, Will Hunter, and everybody that's commenting and just watching the show and enjoying it. We definitely appreciate it. For everybody here at Heavy Bag Boxing, as always, we don't pull any punches. Check us out again next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.